Okay, thank you. Yes, I will be talking how to facilitate fair data principles in Perovskite Solar Cell Research using NOMAD. And my main goal is to convince some of the people who are not using NOMAD right now how easy it can be as a user to use the system to plan experiments, evaluate data. And for this, in the middle of the talk, we will have a small live demonstration. But maybe let's get into the motivation first. A couple of years ago, there was a thing called the replication crisis, and a Nature survey found out that even in the fields of chemistry, more than 70% of researchers were at some point not able to reproduce results published in some other papers. And this can cause large-scale problems and kind of shake our trust in the scientific method, because it's built on the idea that somebody has a great accomplishment and we want to reproduce this and improve this further. And one main origin of this problem is that many synthesis steps are not fully documented or not published in a clear way. And as a result, the fair data and open data movement was started. And we've talked about this in the, we've heard about this today already. And yeah, we mainly want to have data that it is structured and findable, which means we have a unique identifier to really find our data. Then we want an accessible. It means that we have communication protocols that are open and standardized so that different researchers can really access and work with the data. And that interoperable means that we can actually use them for our analyses and have computers read the data and make larger scale analysis. Yes. So in the perovskite world where I'm currently working on, one large example project was the so-called perovskite database, which Pepe also mentioned earlier today. And this is a database where I'm not sure, 50 to 100 different researchers went through thousands of papers, extracted device data from, I think, 40,000 solar cells, manually entered them into this database, and the result is this graph that you can see, the efficiency over the publication dates. And well, there's a lot more behind this database, but this is what the front page, the condensed view of this can be. However, this is, for example, only currently limited to single junction solar cells, and more databases are being created right now for tandem solar cells. But the main problem currently is that maintaining these databases is very labor intensive and not automated, and only focus on published solar cell data. Yes. So yeah, I don't really have to introduce FAIRmat and NOMAD here. So this slide, I will just thank everybody that is contributing in setting up and developing this project, and NOMAD as a software and infrastructure. Especially thank you to Micha, who has helped us in Karlsruhe setting this up and creating parsers and the infrastructure. And now for my experimental setup, I use a robotic spin coater that you can see here. It places the sample automatically in a spin coater. Then it takes a pipette tip and will go to the back, get some solution. And with this, I want to improve the repeatability of my perovskite deposition and yeah, kind of eliminate human error from the perovskite film deposition. And NOMAD will help me to kind of keep track of my data and evaluate this, and then in the future when publishing papers also publish all the data that went into it. So now for the live example. We have here just a very short and easy experiment. We want to identify the influence of annealing temperature. So after the spin coating process, we put our samples on a hot plate, and now we want to investigate how does this annealing temperature affect the quality of our film or the JV parameters of our full device. And for this, I will now leave the presentation and go into the NOMAD. So this is what we will plan the experiment now. So we have here, this is a NOMAD Oasis that we have in Karlsruhe. And here you can see some of my experiments that I did in the past. But now we will create a new upload. So we give the upload a name. And then we will create an experimental plan. And with this experimental plan, we create, this is a schema that was also already previously mentioned. And with this, we can now create our data. We have some standard samples, and we want to have, for example, 20 different samples. And in each sub-batch, so I showed you earlier, we have 5 categories of temperatures. So we have 4 substrates in each category. And then we need the time when the data was processed. This is important to create a new unique identifier. So for example, this data was prepared or created yesterday. And we have here this batch ID. Why is the batch ID important? This will function as the unique identifier for our data in order to create or to uniquely identify each data. And this is actually automatically generated from my account if I logged in. And here you can see the timestamp. OK. Next, we will go into the actual experiment. And most of the time, what you are aware, you have 90% of your solar cell stack will be the same. You will just vary one slight layer. So we have here different steps that I usually perform in my experiments. We have some cleaning steps, some charge transport layer, the actual perovskite layers, and contacts. And now what we want to do, we want to vary here the annealing temperature. So we can see here, OK, we have the annealing temperature. We set here the different parameters that we want to have. We save this, and we load the standard processes. And then afterwards, we can see here it has created some sub-batches when we can create the samples now. And if we look inside these parameters here, for example, we have here, this is now a spin coating class. And we can see here, this is the absorber layer. You can see here the perovskite composition. You can see the quenching parameters when the anti-solvent is being dispensed and at what velocity. And if we now go back into this upload, you can see here the different samples are created. Or on the one hand side, these are the steps that are necessary to manufacture the device. And here you have all the unique identifiers that we have for the experiment. So now I create a second upload for the data, so that I can have the raw files separate from my from the experimental planning. So I have here some JV files, and you can already see that they have the same unique identifier that was created earlier. If I drag and drop the measurement file in here, we can see here in the one hand side the raw file which is saved, and on the second side we can see here this is then automatically created an entry which is matched to the entries that we previously created in the experimental planning. And you can see here then the JV curve is, for example, plotted, and we see some efficiency parameters from this. Okay, so now we will upload the rest of the batch data, which will take maybe a minute or half a minute. And while this is uploading, maybe a time for one short question if you have already some questions regarding what I did so far. For example, here in the processes.
So
yes?
when you have your installation, is this like in a laptop, or is it like I guess it's not a big classic?
This is this is an Oasis hosted on a server in Karlsruhe, so I'm remotely accessing this server right now. That's also why I had to bring my own PC. This local Oasis is currently not connected to the NOMAD, the main NOMAD upstream version, but yes.
Your experiment description, that's something that you've created.
Yes.
All those fields you've created locally on your NOMAD Oasis.
Yes.
You don't exist yet.
Yes. I have created some standard sample where all the processes were defined. So we can look into these, or here are these first processes are created, or they inherit some functions from base classes. And Micha has helped us a lot with setting this up. And this enables me then to just plan the experiment in this experimental plan, which took 5 minutes maybe, and then we can work with this. Okay, so now we see all entries have been uploaded. This is, can I move this? Okay, so now we want to actually do the automated or semi-automated evaluation, and for this in the future probably people could use Python plugins. Right now I just use Jupyter notebooks to access the data, and we can here refresh this, so no data is overwritten. And first I need to kind of establish a connection to the NOMAD Oasis. It asks me for my login credentials. And then the second step is here. Also, again, the important part is to set the unique identifier, which solar cell data I want to analyze now. So I can evaluate this. And this is one of the parameters you need to change for the experiment. And the only other parameter we need to change is the quantity that we are interested in. So I said earlier we want to investigate the annealing temperature, so we somehow need to ask the database, give me all the JV parameters for these experimental or for these solar cells, and also give me their saved annealing temperatures. And now I can extract them. This will also take maybe 20 seconds. And this writes then everything into a data frame, which we can see here now. And now we have basically just a large table with the IDs, the annealing temperatures, names, and so on. And then we do some further processing. And we can see here, for example, the results now. We have different annealing temperature categories. We see the standard deviations. We see medians, maximum efficiencies. And now we want to actually generate some nice plots. So this is now the maximum JV curve for the different categories. It tells me which were the maximum pixels, and from this we can then already see, okay, 100 degrees, can you see the colors properly, was maybe not warm enough to create the champion devices, while at 180 degree we start losing some open circuit voltage already. But maybe we are not only interested in the maximum values, maybe we are also interested in just the median values, because we want to have highly repeatable and reproducible solar cell experiments. And there we can then already see that, okay, at 160 degrees, also some problems arise, at least if we look at the statistical data. And then we can continue and have some box plots plotting all the data points over the annealing temperature, for example, for the power conversion efficiency. And here we can, for example, see that the median value for the 140 degree annealed samples are the highest. And here we could also look at all the individual data points and go to the fill factor. And then interestingly, if we look at the open circuit voltage now, you can see that at higher annealing temperatures, the open circuit voltage drops. And this means we probably should stick to this lower temperature regime for future experiments. Okay. And there are many more kinds of analysis you could make, but this was already the main part for the live demonstration. I can go here into the presenter mode again. Okay, yeah, in case this didn't work, I have also here the data backed up. But maybe what else can you do if you have all the data saved? Maybe you can analyze interesting experiments across different batches or even across different experimenters. And another interesting question you could ask is, okay, does the order in which I process my samples affect the samples in any way? Because in this small spin-coated geometry, one could imagine that the solvent atmosphere changes over time from the first to the last sample. However, we can, from this experiment, for example, see that this is not the case. And two, three more points I want to make. Replication, reproducibility, and repeatability are words that are often used interchangeably, and I want to maybe highlight and stress this once more, that you are aware and use them properly. And they are kind of ordered in a hierarchical way. What is the easiest way, or the basic thing to show is repeatability, which means you repeat the same exact experiment with the same experimenter, the same setup, and you do it today and a week from now, and you get the same trends for this temperature dependence, for example. Reproducibility, on the other hand, is a bit harder to show. This means that you use the same experimental methodology, but some things, for example, the researcher or the solution you use, changes over time. And replication or replicability means that you have the same scientific question, but you have maybe a different method to analyze your data. So you're not interested, you don't use the JV measurements to analyze the influence of temperature, but maybe you use XRD data, and hopefully then come to the same conclusion. Okay, how do I evaluate and measure the repeatability? I usually look at the standard deviations across my batches, and also look at how the median of my batches changes. And in the best case, I have the variation of each individual batch being the same as the variation over all the batches. And the median values of my samples should stay constant over time. Currently, for my robotic setup, I have about a 1% standard deviation, which can still be improved. Some works I want to highlight from other groups, because I'm not quite there yet, is using material acceleration platforms for automatically optimizing work. So McLean from Vancouver or Zhang in Nuremberg or in Erlangen, they showed how automatic processing can the use of optimization algorithms can really close the loop and have automatic evaluations of data, and then in the second step also automatic planning of the next experimental parameter sets. And with this, you can, independently of the researcher, optimize different layers of your, for example, perovskite solar cells. Okay, this was mainly from what I wanted to present to you. So in summary, we need fair and open data structures to improve our material science field, to be able to reproduce and build on the work others have already achieved. The NOMAD solution already at its experimental or still under development state can already benefit individual researchers like myself, but the true power will only unleash if many people start using it and we can combine data sets from different institutions, for example, the research groups that I mentioned earlier. And this will then enable larger scale meta-analyses and make the data aggregation like the perovskite database easier in the future. And especially if we then combine this with high throughput experimentation and optimize robotic setups, we can really accelerate and make this material research more efficient. So with this, I thank you, and
Thank you. Very nice work. We will have further questions.